Hey there, friends. If you're looking for a way to bring poetry study into your home to a very reluctant poetry reader, I think I may have something for you. I have discovered Moving Beyond the Page has a poetry unit for ages 9 to 11. I'm going to show you where to find the online version of this course, what's included with it, what books you need to have to do this unit, and I'll give you a look inside the student pages so you see the activities and projects that your student will be completing. I'm very excited to give this a go, and I can't wait to show it to you. So let's get started. Here we are at the Moving Beyond the Page website. I wanted to start off here to show you where you can find the online version of the courses that I'm going to show you. So you're going to start by going up here to shop and go to ages 9 to 11 because that's where the poetry unit is. And if you look on this page, you're going to see all of the print material that you're able to purchase, the full curriculum package of all those guides, all the literature that's included. But we're going to keep scrolling down here to the bottom because there are lots of other options for you to purchase. I'm going to go here to the curriculum, online curriculum only option to show you where you can get the poetry unit online. So if you scroll down here, you will see that the poetry online is the first one, and you can click on that and go and read a little bit more on that if you'd like. There's the option to add to cart here. You can see it's just under $13, and you'll have a full 365 days of access where you can use the screens to teach off of the screens and print off the individual activity sheets. You can print off all the activity sheets at one time. Lots of different options. I will show you those here in the next little video clip. But it is real important that you know that when that 365 days ends, you will no longer be able to log in and print off anything. So if you want to print off additional copies for additional students, be sure you do that before your year access runs out. Okay, so here we are inside the actual online access. I have logged in, and you can see I have about 318 days left to use this course. This is the table of contents screen. If you don't come here right away when you log in, make sure that you click on this because this is where you are able to print off all the student activity pages at one time. This is a 30-page file, and this is so much easier than printing off each additional page as you go. I was actually doing that when I started preparing this. I just went to lesson 1 and started printing off the pages, and I didn't know that I could print them all off from this table of contents page. So there's a little time-saving tip if you get this course. Here, the reading and question pages, those are the reading assignments and questions that you'll ask your student, but it doesn't contain any of the additional teaching information that you will see on the screens that I'm about to show you. So I actually feel there's more information here on the computer screen. I'm just going to teach from it like I mentioned in my last little video clip. But if you want to print these off, you can. I just felt that it was kind of a needless use of paper because I'm going to just have my computer screen up and view that content that way. You can see you have some other things. I'm not going to show you those because I have shown you those in other flip throughs of the Moving Beyond the Page study guides. So I'm not going to show you those sections, but they do give you some helpful tips on how to use the program, some review information. They give you a list of all the skills that you're going to cover in the course. So be sure to open those up when you're planning to start this course. So here are your lessons, and you can see here that there are a couple lessons, lesson 1 and the final project lesson that they've said will take more than one day. I actually feel that there's a couple lessons that they've marked as one day that really could be a couple. So I'm actually allowing 16 days for this course, and that for us will be 4 weeks because we do reading 4 days per week. I'm going to hop in here and show you what a lesson looks like. And this will be the first screen you come to. It is the intro screen. As you see, intro is dark blue here, and it gives you kind of all of that teacher information I was telling you about. The materials you need, kind of the icebreaker little thought to think of up here at the top. Have you ever read a book of poems? Have you ever memorized a poem? So just kind of those little introductory comments that maybe you could read to your student to let you know what, or to let your student know what's going to be going on. This guide is actually written to the student, so you could give this to your child to read, although I believe these units are best taught. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, so there's your supplies, some things to think about before you start. And this is kind of the content that you're going to cover. So this kind of gives you a little summary of that there. And then you get down to the reading assignment and the questions that follow. So this is what would print off, this part right here. That would print off in that reading questions page. So none of the stuff up here that I showed you would print off from there. So that's why I'm just planning to use the computer screen here. All right, let's hop into the student activities. Again, this is set for 2 days. So you see we have activities that would be considered day 1. And then this day 2 tab would obviously be considered day 2. So on day 1, there are 2 activities that are assigned. As you can see, you could print off the worksheets right here, but we've already done that from the table of contents page, printing it all off at one time. But if you need an extra one, something happens that particular day, there's a spill or something, you can reprint off just that single page right here from the lesson if you'd like. And I'll just kind of leave it on here so you can kind of see the sample of the activity that they do. And then you can move right on to day 2 the next day. And certainly if you feel like these days are even too full with having all of these things in here, you could break it up even further, however you'd like. But they do schedule it over 2 days. And then at the end of the second day, you would come to the conclusion screen just to wrap everything up. And I do like how they give life application in each lesson as well. One other thing I'll just note over here on the side is the idea share tab. As you can see, there are 2 ideas that other mamas have put in the idea share. There are suggestions for websites you can go to. There are suggestions for other activities you can do, other books you may want to read. And so I thought that was neat that they have that right there for you as an additional resource as you're going through this course. Okay, so here are the books, 2 of the 3 books that are used along with the poetry unit in Moving Beyond the Page. This one here is used from Unit 7 on, and this one here is pretty much used the entire unit. This is what I would consider more the course book or the textbook. I'm going to try one-handed to show you inside here. This is how it is set up. B is for ballad. They give you an example and then some content over here about what makes it a ballad, what are the elements of it, and it just goes through here. I'll skip ahead. P is for picture poem, where the poem is actually written out in a picture form, and then it gives some information about it and an example with some silly pictures here. So this is a fun picture book that also doubles as a informational text for the unit. This here is more of a story written about a little boy, or actually in the voice of a little boy who's struggling with writing poetry, and it's just daily little logs of his journey through becoming a little poet. And he starts off saying that poetry is for girls and he doesn't want to do it, but then by the end he is inspired to write a poem about his dog Sky, and it kind of just takes you through that journey. So not much text per page, even though it's an 80-page book or 100-page book, something like that. It's a very fast read for your kids because there's very little text per page, and it's written in that short poem verse format, so not a very heavy read with this book either. So 2 very kind of unique texts to use as we study poetry in this unit. Okay, let's look in now inside the actual guide, the actual poetry guide. Now this is very poor printing. This is not from the company. This is just something I printed off at home from a small thumbnail just so I could have a cover for the page. So this is not the type of quality you would get from the company. This is a homemade version here, but this is the poetry unit for the age 9 to 11 range at Moving Beyond the Page. We opted to get, as I've mentioned, the online version so that I could just print off copies for my kids. There's about 30 pages in the activity section. You can, as I showed you, print off all the pages at once, and that's what I've done here. I'm just going to briefly flip through here and give you an idea of the type of sample activities that you will complete. I opted not to print the teacher instruction pages because I felt that there was more instruction given on the computer than what was printed. So I opted to just work off of my computer to do the lessons each day and then print off the sheets for my son. So it does cover vocabulary, and it does do so pretty well. I think that it introduces it along with the readings that are in the R is for rhyme book. So it gives your student an example of what a stanza is or a couplet is in those reading samples. So it doesn't just define it and they just kind of have no objective or concrete picture of what it is. So I like that. I like that they go through the definitions, but then they have them go to the picture book that I showed you to actually see those terms kind of in a poem. Okay, so rhyming patterns. We look for those within the samples. Some techniques, onomatopoeia, alliteration, metaphor, and simile. So we're getting beyond just what do the poems mean. We're actually studying the mechanics of the poem. Oops, looks like I have two of that page. We'll just pull that aside. We're getting into some of the mechanics and devices that you can use in poetry. Oops, looks like these are out of order. I guess this didn't come together as well as I thought here. I think that was when I was going to grab things off, not knowing that I could print it all off at once, and I was printing each page individually, so it got a little messed up there. But I think we should be good here. So I like these kinds of things when they bring in other subject areas, cross-curricular connections, I believe is what a lot of people call that. And I really enjoy that because I feel like that helps children remember things that they wouldn't normally maybe be interested in, like my son's not normally interested in poetry. So if we make some geography ties, which he is really interested in, that will help him remember some of the things we learned, I'm sure. So the pages are interesting. They are black and white, but they are kind of interesting, not just, blanks with numbers and definitions and things like that. There is a third book that is about the different regions of the U.S., and I wasn't able to get that from my library to show you, but there is a third book, and so I'm sure this goes along with it. And then at the back of the book, there is at the back of the Love That Dog book, there is a section about Robert Frost and some of his poems. So you will actually do an artist study and learn a little bit more about him and then actually look at his poems. So not just learning about poetry, but also about a poet, which I thought was kind of fun. And again, this is available pre-printed in spiral bound from the company. They do have a pretty strict copyright, though. They ask that you not photocopy that, even for members of your house. Now, if somebody is familiar with a change that may have come up in their policy, please indicate that in the comments. But when I looked into it a couple years ago to purchase for the first time, I realized that I better get the online version that I can just print off copies for my kids, because I don't want to have to buy multiple copies of this over the years. So this is a grading rubric for their final project. The final project is actually preparing and memorizing several different poems of the varying styles that they learned about, and actually offering a kind of poetry tea time almost, if you're familiar with that. Many homeschoolers do that. They encourage the student to create a coffee and cookie menu and have some goodies laid out to create a nice setting for people to sit and listen to the poetry, and then also to deliver your memorized poems. So they also are actually encouraged to create a small program for this final project. So not just reading poems and analyzing it, a lot of variance of activity, which I've come to expect with Moving Beyond the Page and really enjoy. So that is what we are going to do coming off of Christmas break for our poetry unit in 4th grade. I hope this look through was helpful to you. I will come back at the end of this unit and give you an actual review and let you know how we liked it, how things went, how my son responded to it, all of that, of course. So please make sure that you're subscribed so that you see that video when it pops up. Go ahead and like this video if you are enjoying these flip throughs. I always pay attention to what you like and try to give you guys more of that content. Feel free to leave any questions or comments down below, and if you've used this unit or other Moving Beyond the Page units, feel free to leave your tips and tricks down below. I'm sure we all would benefit from those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.